What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's extremely bizarre video, we're going to talk about how MULN just hit another all-time low last trade, 11.5. As we approach the 1 o'clock hour, I'm going to give you 5 key levels of resistance that we must get through in order to go significantly higher. And before the end of today's episode, I'm going to share with you what I think could be happening as MULN is preparing to acquire MCOM and an EV fleet management company. All that, what, and more coming right up. Happy hump day. Again, it's 1:02 in the afternoon. Last trade on MULN, 11.59. Last trade on MCOM, 11.40. So they've been almost tick for tick this morning. But before I share with you an extremely bizarre scenario that came through me this morning, and you're not going to want to miss it. And I'm going to need your comments by the end of this video. I want to go over 5 key areas of resistance. Again, both of these stocks, listen to this. MULN's all-time low this morning was 11.11. Is that a good luck number? Maybe. Could trade higher from here. And 11.10 on MCOM. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. And I'm going to share with you why in the back half of this video. But here are the 5 levels of resistance that we need to get through in order for MULN to go significantly higher. First level of resistance, 14. Why? We were going sideways after we all learned that they're going to dilute upwards of 3 billion shares in terms of the outstanding float. It gave way there last night. Kaboom, all the way down to 11.11. So we're going to have to climb through 14 cents and then again at 17 cents in order to go through 20. And I'll share the resistance levels at that point in a second. But you might recall a couple of days ago, when they goosed up the stock to 20 cents, you remember that? Oh, here comes the mother of all short squeezes. Here comes the dumb retail money getting all lathered up and all FOMO'd up, only to have the rug pulled and right back down. So what I think happened, and I know you hate hearing this, but it's based on 30 years of experience. Half of that as a broker from 1993 to 2007 before I got wiped out in a bankruptcy. But we'll save that for another video. But what I think happened is the repricing of some, not all of those warrants at 1601 to 1696. In other words, in the 16s. And you can find it in the 8K SEC filing from a few days ago. So you had all these institutions, aka insiders, that were converting at 16 cents and change. And they said, hey, let's goose it up with a large at-the-market order, up to 20 cents, maybe a couple of million shares. It's nothing to them, right? Here comes the retail money. All of a sudden, the stock is cooking, right? It was up 15 or 20%. And then, kaboom, 19, 18, 17. In my opinion, they probably liquidated after the conversion in the 16s, somewhere between a third and upwards of no more than a half. And then we were faced with an issue last night and again this morning where it gave way at 16. It could have been a tiny bit of short selling, and for the love of God Almighty, you know who I'm talking about. There's the gentleman with the Ukrainian flag, and there's a rather attractive woman who's been telling you to buy MULN for the last year and a half, who keep blaming this on the naked short sellers. Wrong. This is massive dilution. We just had a quadrupling of the float. We've got an authorized, supposedly up to 5 billion shares, although they claim they're not going to be doing any more dilution after the end of the quarter this Friday. But it's a massive influx of hundreds of millions and eventually billions of shares from 3 major insiders that are flooding the market. So they may have gotten out of some of it up to 20 cents. They're selling the rest of it right now, in my opinion. Last trade, 11.69 at a loss. Why in the world, you might ask, are they doing this? Because they want to get the fuck out of Dodge. Recall, 3 major insiders that control over 2 billion shares of stock filed to sell at 60 cents a share about a month or so ago. I should have said to myself, gee, why are these guys and gals selling all their stock, or at least filing to do so, at 60 cents, which at that time was an all-time low? We should have been out at that point. We should have just said, fuck it, we're going to take a 50% loss or thereabouts and get out. Because it's been 50, 40, 30, you know the rest. So at this point, in my opinion, after they did the reprice, which it was for the most part at 72 cents on the warrants, they repriced some of it at 52 cents. That's also in the 8K, but they also did, in conjunction with that $100 million convertible yesterday, A bunch at 16 cents. Are they helping out you, the average investor? No. Are they giving a sweet deal to those that have helped them raise $235 million or thereabouts in cash as we speak? Yeah. But they're not even confident to hold the stock any more than a few hours. I'm absolutely fucking telling you right now, most of the selling that we're seeing is a conversion at 16, and they're willing to sell it at 15, 14, 13, 12, 11 and change just to get out. From a net perspective, they may lose 10 or 15% on that lot. The rest of it, and this is assuming they didn't short the stock, and as many of you said, they probably did all the way down. They've made money. They've recouped losses. But from a strictly net long perspective, they've lost their ass. So we have to sit there before I share an extremely bizarre scenario that involves Sal at MCOM and an EV fleet management company. We have to sit here and be honest with ourselves. It's amazing. I'm going to need your comments below. We have to sit here and say, why is so much stock for sale at 11 cents and change? Because they don't believe in what's going on at the company, even though they only have $7.2 million of debt. Pay that off, David. There's a press release for you. We got $235 million in cash. We're in our strongest financial position ever, and we've now got no debt. That's a press release worthy of announcing. But we have a situation where you just jacked up the float from a couple 100 million shares to 3 billion, and you're authorized to go even higher than that. So we're supposed to take your word that you're done for the rest of the year. Okay, let's assume that's true, but we're still left with a reverse split. And as I said yesterday, they already have the votes. Between David and those insiders through their convertible preferred, they already have enough votes. They're calling a vote, I believe it's August 3rd, as a formality. Right? It's to help put a little salve on your ass because you've been bent over this desk. And I still don't have any lube, if you caught the end of last night's video, to help soothe the pain. Which brings me to the next levels of resistance. So it's 14, it's 17, it's 21 and a half, it's a quarter, and then it's 30. So you got 5 levels right there. If you pull up an hour-long chart over the last 30 days, you'll see massive red down bars from 30, from a quarter, from 21 and a half, 17, and now 14 as we're bouncing off close to 12 as we approach the 1:15 hour just outside of Atlanta. So what do I give the odds? I'm dying to tell you the story. That's why I'm trying to slow down. What are the odds that we chew through organically all 5 levels up to 30 cents? 25%. And I'll say the same for MCOM, last trade 11 and a half. I'll give you a 25% chance that both of those stocks organically triple or quadruple on their own without a reverse split. I'm sitting, as many of you know, at 65 cents. I own MULN at 113, MCOM at 82. I'm willing to take the loss. From a net perspective, it would be close to 40% across the board to get out of both. And I'll never talk about them again, or as little as I absolutely positively have to. But the odds of it getting up there, 10 or 15%. What are the chances? Many of you have asked me that we actually regain NASDAQ compliance, of which both are in violation. 0. I do not see either one of those doing a 9 or a 10x to $1 without a reverse split. They're both going to have to. They're both way out of compliance. They're both gasping for air, and you could make the case that Lion Larry, Sal, and David all belong in jail. However, there is a possibility that they're actually about ready to get together. All right, there's a lot of smart people watching me right now. Smarter than myself, believe it or not. You may not be up 700% the last 118 winners. Follow me on Twitter. But you're much more in tune as to the inner workings of David, the factories, the fleet companies, etc. So I'm sitting there this morning having a cup of coffee, and it hits me. Several months ago, Sal, and I mentioned this yesterday, went to see David at one of their facilities. The goal at the time, and I believe it was February, is to see if MULN would be interested and capable of manufacturing the wheels and the Hellbiz e-scooters and bikes. We heard nothing coming out of that meeting yet. We heard nothing coming out of that meeting. But ever since that day, Sal, who was dead against dilution and didn't want to do a reverse split stock, right? We've got screenshots all over the place of him not only taunting and asking for apologies, and he's going to be the last one to laugh or smile at you, but he was on record, and I'm talking about Sal, of not wanting to dilute and or do a reverse split. But after that meeting, David, a guy who's run 4 other companies into the ground through massive dilution, and he's in the process of doing a 5th right now with MULN, may have whispered in his ear and said, look, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're not going to go to jail. You know, that guy Jason and all those other nut jobs on Reddit and in StockTwits, et cetera, they're not going to put you behind bars. And I'm speaking from David's perspective. I've already done it myself. I've got associations, and this is a fact, with known securities fraudsters that have been to jail. I've issued billions and billions of shares, and I've done reverse split after reverse split after reverse split. I've got more carrots in my closet than I could ever dangle. So Sal, get over it. Here's what you need to do, and follow me on the logic here, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sal walks out of that meeting convinced of a couple of things. It's okay to start diluting, and boy does he with Yorkville. $20 million, that's upwards of 75 to 80 million shares and counting. They both somehow, some way have ground the stock down. It's literally tick for tick. If I'd have told you 3 months ago these stocks would do a reverse split between $2 and let's call it $5 a share, and they would meet each other within 3 or 4 months at a dime, not one of you, not even the biggest bear, would have believed that. But here we are. So maybe the agreement was grind the stock down to a dime. Max out your dilution with Yorkville. I'll do the same with my insiders, upwards of 3 billion shares. But in the process, glass half full here, for those of you that are long the stock like me, I'll then be able to say, as David, we are in the strongest financial position ever. We have $235 million worth of cash. We only have $7 million of debt that they should pay off tomorrow and announce it as such. And we're about to acquire MCOM, which, as I shared, follow me on Twitter, just signed a letter of intent a month ago with what? A fleet management company. Folks, is it possible, and does it even make sense, that David would spend, let's call it $35 million to acquire MCOM between 40 and 50 cents? He could do it all cash, might be the smartest thing, or a combination of stock and cash. Why would David want to acquire MCOM after the merger with YAYO? Because he would gain access, 1, to $30 to $35 million of revenue run rate. He's got 0. MULN's been in business for 10 years. Does it make sense to spend roughly $1 for every dollar of revenue to acquire MCOM, which is about to become YAYO, a fleet management company doing $15 million in revenue, and we're assuming those numbers are correct, and Hellbiz and Wheels doing another $15 million. Spend $35 million to buy out MCOM between 40 and 50. Acquire 30 to 35, $40 million of revenue. And in the process, not only have my own e-fleet manager in-house, it's evmo.com if you want to go do the research, but I will then become the sole manufacturer, probably in Tunica, Mississippi, of all the Hellbiz and wheel bikes, because let us not forget, Sal has 2 giant orders that he took pre-orders from that he's got to fill before the end of the year. And I got to tell you, as much as I can't stand the 3 amigos who do belong in jail, I can make sense, or I can get behind the fact, both of them getting close, 11.5 on MCOM, now it's 12.01 on MULN. I could make the case that David, with $235 million in cash, let's call it 0 debt, it would make sense for him to acquire MCOM at a premium, 40 to 50 cents a share, which would be roughly $35 million based on, let's call it 75 million shares outstanding. And his argument would be, we've got no revenue. We've got no fleet management in-house, but now we do. We're acquiring MCOM for $35 million. In the process, we get an equal amount in terms of annual run rate. We've got our own fleet management company that's been successful for a number of years. Even though it does trade on the pink sheets, they had to sell or sign a letter of intent with MCOM because their investment banker, YAYO, is going out of business. So it's possible that these 3 coming together would go from 0 revenue for MULN to 30 million or thereabouts between the combination of all 3. You'd still have $200 million or roughly of that in cash, but you can no longer be called the company that for 10 years has done absolutely nothing in terms of generate revenue. And they could grow their commercial business through EVMO.com, which is something they desperately need to do. Many of you rightly point out, if you're long the stock, if they don't have the fleets, they got nothing. Well, maybe they could get a fleet in-house. It all makes sense. Think about it in closing. They meet in February. Nothing is mentioned as a result of that meeting. He probably told them, look, max out your dilution. I'll do the same. We'll raise as much cash as possible. I'll meet you somewhere in and around 10 or 15 cents. Here we are. A month ago, Sal gets together with what? A fleet management company, right? It didn't make sense. Rideshare, e-bikes and scooters with Dixie Cup helmets. Check it out, micromobility.com. Getting together with a fleet management company, but now it does. At least to me, it's a possibility. Am I telling you to buy the stocks at 11 cents and change? No, I'm not. But am I saying that it's possible that they could spend an equal amount of money, 35 million, let's call it, to acquire thereabouts in revenue, get a fleet management company under their belt, become the sole manufacturer of e-bikes and scooters, and everybody wins. And if I told you right now, and don't you fucking lie to me before you give me your comments below, if I said to you in either case, but let's use MCOM as an example, I'll give you 50 cents for your stock right now, and you got 3 seconds to make a decision. 3, 2, 1, sold. And until next time, always remember that I love you. And thank you so much for watching. You remember when Dianne Feinstein, right, about a year ago when I was fighting like hell to get you EIDL loans and grants, she said, I'm just a podcaster. Don't listen to this guy. I'm just a podcaster. Folks, I've only got 118 wins for almost 700% gains on Twitter at Try Small Biz, and nobody works fucking harder than I do for $2 a day on behalf of 300 families as a premium member at TrySmallBiz.com.